So, Ziyanda, the question that was anticipated was asked.
Yes.
And I guess that was the main question that everybody was wanting to find out. What was discussed in that meeting? What is the way forward for the African National Congress, given the fact that the warrant of arrest has been issued to Ace Magashule, and the question of whether or not the Secretary General voluntarily will step down, or whether he will be required to step down. Just your sentiments on the fact that the quote is it wasn't even really discussed, that it's something that will be left for an NEC meeting, and also no clarity as to when this NEC meeting will be called and whether or not it will be a special NEC meeting. Your thoughts around how this has been treated?
Look, you know, the rather short statement by the ANC's top officials is also, to me, an indication of how they're trying to walk a very tight rope and move, you know, very carefully when managing this issue of the Secretary General. However, what was rather a lackluster response then from the DSG, Jesse Duarte, regarding that NEC decision, you know, she said that that now is being reviewed and that they're now seeking legal counsel regarding that particular resolution, which said that any cadre who has been formally charged with corruption must immediately step aside until they clear their name. Now it seems as though there's almost a backtrack when it comes to that particular resolution.
Can I ask you, before you move forward,
yeah,
has this ever been discussed before, this suspensive clause? Because she made a good point. She said there are instances when, you know, cadres or officials were charged and then those charges were withdrawn, but after they'd actually resigned. So that's a point to be made there. But has this suspensive condition been discussed before this Ace Magashule issue?
But no one's being asked to resign, Sis Tammy. People are being asked to step aside.
Yes.
And so that's the issue then. So there is a legal argument to be made, and this issue was raised in particular when it came to the instance of Bongani Bongo, where there is no step aside in the law. As an MP, you need to, if you're absent for a certain a period of time or days without any explanation, you could lose your seat. But remember then, Tammy, the situation of Ace Magashule is different. He holds no government position. He is based full-time at Luthuli House. And so the issue of him stepping aside, really, in terms of the legal counsel that needs to be sought, I don't think it comes into question with regards to, you know, issues about legislature parliamentary rules. His is quite you know, a cutthroat one, really, to say this is what the resolution is. However, it must also be emphasized then that Paul Mashatile was quite right when he said that it's now tasked, left with the ANC NEC. They are the only body which is tasked with dealing with such an instance of a senior official, because ordinarily this would have been Ace Magashule's job, but of course now he's the one being implicated, and so it will be very interesting then to start discussing about the balance of forces within the ANC NEC, because you could very well find that Ace Magashule has a lot of support within the ANC NEC when it comes to this being deemed as a political matter rather than a legal one.
Do you get the sense that this is an urgent matter, the convening of a special NEC meeting?
Well, certainly you do get a sense that there will be a meeting, but they were not clear on whether or not they'll call a specific or special meeting then to deliberate on this issue. And that's where I would say there was a rather lackluster response. It showed no sense of urgency or understanding of the gravity of this particular matter.
But let's go to Nicholas Bauer, who is out at Luthuli House for us this afternoon. A very good afternoon to you, Nicholas. We've just concluded the press briefing there by the ANC's top brass. Just your views and your sentiment as to how this all unfolded this afternoon.
Well, a very short and terse statement from the ANC there, and I mean, I think it's been ably summarized there by Ziyanda. What more can really be said by the ANC at this point in time, other than to say that they note the court proceedings that are going to go ahead against Ace Magashule, reiterate that their SG, Secretary General, believes he's done nothing wrong, and also say that members are allowed to support the SG, but will be doing so in their personal capacity. Well, we've seen this time and time again, haven't we? from the Zuma years and onwards. Do those ANC supporters truly go and represent themselves outside of the court, or are they through and through really just dyed-in-the-wool ANC supporters that are out there showing their support for an ANC elected official? Where do we go from here? This is the big question I'd like to know for the ANC top 6. How exactly do those top 6 officials sit in a room together and decide which direction the continent's oldest liberation movement goes? Certainly very tense and uncertain times ahead for the ANC.
And I want to ask you this, Ziyanda, just from your perspective. Do you believe that the ANC top brass has given and shown the type of leadership that South Africans would expect from the governing party? What we got today, do you believe that this is enough for South Africa to entrench who and what the ANC is and what it stands for, as well as the seriousness of the resolutions that they make? Ziyanda?
Well, certainly then, Sis Tammy, I think, you know, the issue around how seriously then the ANC is taken comes into question. I mean, if you just look at the quote from Jessie Duarte, where she's saying we do support the SG, that's not in question, and in fact it's quite implicit. How will that then be interpreted by, you know, South Africans in terms of the ANC's seriousness and its fight against corruption when, you know, this matter hasn't been ventilated in a court of law, and yet you're already saying you support him? What then happens if he does get found guilty of the allegations that he's facing? What image then does that portray to South Africans?
Nicholas, from your standpoint, you picked up on something quite important there, and this is something that Jessie Duarte as well spoke about. The reason why she, as well as Paul Mashatile, will not be going to Bloemfontein, because she says that they cannot separate themselves from their duties. They cannot separate themselves as individuals from the portfolios that they hold. How do you think this is going to fare on the ground? Is this likely to affect the turnout that the Secretary General is going to get? We do know that the likes of Luthuli House have already just, you know, hours ago were tweeting that come Friday we will be there in support of the Secretary General.
Well, this really, for me, cuts to the heart of the matter. There's no doubt that the ANC is factionalized on long certain political lines. The NEC, National Executive Committee, is really key among that and punctuates that division if you see the way that NEC decisions and statements are worded. I think that that's an attempt by the ANC top 6 to try and put some sort of unity into all of this. How exactly would the ANC begin to function if we had members of the ANC top 6 out there supporting Ace Magashule this coming Friday? Jessie Duarte also saying that the ANC is not going to interfere with the court proceedings against Ace Magashule, the Secretary General, but have said that they hope he gets a fair hearing and is not tried before the court proceedings actually get underway. So it really is difficult times for us to predict exactly what's going to happen this coming Friday, but I would almost bet my bottom dollar that we are going to see a fair amount of NEC members that will be present outside of court. We're going to see the likes of the Ekurhuleni chairperson, Mzondile Messina. He said that he's going to be there. And I should also imagine the likes of Tony Yingeni as well, another very prominent ANC NEC member. But certainly the top 6, how do you try and put a face of unity on this, really, when the factionalism within the ANC is just laid for all to bear here? And I should imagine that it will only become clearer as to how deep those factionalized lines are being drawn within the ruling party.
Nicholas Bauer, thank you so much. That's our Nicholas Bauer outside Luthuli House this afternoon.